Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I'd talk about voting and specifically voting for 16 to 18 year old group, because at the moment the law is that you can't vote unless you're 18 years of age or above, and it's always been on the agenda over recent years, primarily by the likes of the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, those types of parties, the fringe parties at the end of the day. And I know a lot of you Lib Dem voters are going to hate me calling Lib Dems a fringe party, but they are really. They're a fringe party. They're not going to win an election or anything. Okay, and it's been on the agenda for a long time. And why? Well, fundamentally because they want the extra votes. Because 16 to 18 year olds fundamentally are not going to vote Conservative. Okay, they're not going to do that. Because if you actually look at the data and the statistics, okay, the Conservatives are never going to vote for it. Okay, they will not, under any circumstances, vote for bringing in voting for 16 to 17 year olds, because 18 year olds can already vote, because I voted at 18. Okay, so why would Labour want to bring it in? One, so they can guarantee they'll win the next election. In my view, they will win the next election because the Conservatives and Reform are fighting against each other for them votes. And historically, 16 to 17 year olds are in the camp of Labour, and this is why. Okay, and everybody can shout and holler at me and send all the abuse they want for me for saying this. Because at 16 and 17, okay, you don't really understand politics. I certainly didn't understand politics. I know the first time I ever voted, I voted for Labour. It was when Tony Blair won his first election, and I got caught up in the rapport of, the country needed change. He got all the musicians and all the sports stars and everybody involved in everything. And you got caught up in the Ferrari of all of that. And I did. And that was the last time I ever voted Labour. I've never voted Labour since then. Okay. Because I learned, I watched programmes like Question Time, I watched lots of debates and understood how a country and how a government actually works. And this is the problem for 16 to 17 year olds. Now, it's not for all 16 to 17 year olds, but for the bulk of them, they don't get taught it at school. They're not going to be concerned with learning it at home, being taught about politics and the way that things work, the economy and everything works at home, because they're going to be more concerned, specifically males, they're going to be more concerned with playing PlayStation or Xbox. Okay, that's reality, that is. Or going on the green, getting pissed up with their mates. And girls, pretty much the same kind of thing. Maybe not Xbox and PlayStation, but they've got their cliques at the end of the day. Maybe more interested in boys. Or girls, whatever way you swing. None of my business at the end of the day. But that is the modern world. Okay, so the reality is most kids nowadays don't understand it. Okay, so what normally happens is this. Labour will promise you the world. You're going to be naive and stupid, okay, by believing it. It's no different to when Jeremy Corbyn said, we're going to buy back all the institutions, we're going to buy back all the gas companies, all the electric companies, all the water companies. And I remember watching an interview that Sky News did to the person who was in charge. And they put this question to her. And this is the fundamental problem for kids. Because this is what, and I shouldn't really call them kids because they're technically adults. Okay. Is when they got asked, how are you going to pay for it? How much is it going to cost? Where are you going to get the money from? And at the time, she couldn't answer that question. And this is the fundamental problem, because most 16 to 17 year olds wouldn't ask that question. They they would probably like the idea of it. You know, it's a fantastic idea. But this is the problem, that you just get promise after promise after promise after promise, and you're naive enough to believe it. You know, you want to believe it. Even I do. You know, even I wanted to believe. I didn't vote for Keir Starmer, but I wanted to believe he is going to make change. He's going to make things better, because I knew the Conservatives were going to lose the last election. It's fundamentally obvious. You'd have to be an absolute moron or Conservative MP, to be honest, okay, to believe that you had a chance of winning it, because you was never going to win it. So the reality is, when you're that age, you're going to vote Labour. So Labour will be absolutely stupid not to want to put this through, because they are the ones that are going to make the gains. Yes, the Lib Dems will make a few gains. The Green Party will make a few gains. Even Reform might make a few gains. The people that aren't going to make any gains, who will be against it, are the Conservative Party. Because the reality is, people don't vote Conservatives until they've been in the real world for a little while. Once they've started paying taxes, once they've had a job for a while, once they've got maybe had a few sprogs, okay, and got a few kids like myself with 5 children, okay, maybe they've gone and started a business and they're starting to pay corporation tax and all them other bills that come with that. Maybe they've decided that they want to buy a house of their own and they're having to save up the money, and they're not able to save enough money because they want a mortgage. So if you say, for instance, where I live, okay, I live in a place called Leon Solent, which is slap bang in between Portsmouth and Southampton. Problem with this place is it's bloody expensive. Okay, now I live in housing association. I can only dream of afford buying a house. Now my next door neighbour, which is right there, just the other side of this wall behind me, okay, he's just put his house up for sale. £535,000 for a 4-bedroom semi-detached house. It might actually be detached, I can't remember. Okay, but it's not joined onto our wall. It might be joined onto the other side's wall. Okay, otherwise I'll be in a terraced. You know, so that's 535 grand. You want to go and get a mortgage for that? It's 10% mortgage, £53,500 deposit. Because most banks, yes, you can with some banks get 5%, which I think Nationwide do. Okay, but most banks it's 10%. So if you want to go and buy that house, over £50,000 deposit you're going to have to put down. And this is why, when people get a bit older, they start flipping to the Conservative Party. So the reality is you've got to ask the question, will it be fairness across all parties? No, it won't. So, should the vote for 16 to 17-year-olds be brought in? Because most of them don't understand politics and they don't know what they're really going to be voting for. You can look at it from both sides. Because they're going to be old enough to work. They're going to be old enough to be paying taxes. So why shouldn't they have a say in it? In my view, they have every right to have a say in it. So why shouldn't they have a vote? Now, the other side of the coin is they don't understand it. They really don't. I know plenty of people over the age of 18 that don't understand politics and the way things work and everything. Now, I struggle to understand a lot of it sometimes, and I put a lot of content out on a daily basis about politics. You know, so if I struggle at times, how on earth is a 16-year-old that's just left school, absolutely learnt nothing in the last 12 years in the way that education's being done nowadays, what chance have they got of being able to make an informed, proper decision? So, the question I'm going to ask is, should they actually really be given the vote? Because one way, I think, yes, they should be. And then another way, because they're not really going to understand. And are they really going to look into it? What way they actually, what their beliefs are? Probably not. So it's a hard decision to actually decide, should 16 to 17-year-olds actually be given the vote? So let us know what you think. I'm going to say yes. And that's not so that I get more 16 to 17-year-olds following me or anything. I would be very grateful if you did, but that's not the reason. I think the fundamental thing is, if they're having to pay into the tax system because they can go and get a job in everything, why shouldn't they be allowed to have a say in how their tax money gets spent? If you'd asked me half an hour ago, I probably would have said no. But I think because they are having to pay taxes, they can go and start to look into learning to drive where they're going to have to pay other taxes as well. There is an argument to say, yeah, they should have to vote. So let us know what you think. If you disagree with me, that's fine, that's no problem. Just let us know in the comments down below. And obviously, if you are new to the channel, if you could please subscribe, I would appreciate it as well. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again a bit later.